Hey, mama. Welcome back to another One Income Family podcast episode. I am super excited to be talking to you about today's episode because, there's just so much packed into the myths and things that we tell ourselves that we need in order to thrive on one income. And I really want to challenge those things today because life is so much more than the income that we bring in. It's so much more than money. And the world has just really made us believe that money is power and that money is what identifies our success. But today I want to challenge those thoughts. Today I want you to think about the things that life brings us and we can look at to really learn what success we should be focusing on, the things that really should be defining our success. Because like I said, life is so much more than money. And by focusing on money and the fact that we need to bring in money because money equals power and money equals success, then our thoughts and our desires, they're focused on the wrong things. They're focused on things that, they're fun to have and all. The money is great. And yes, we need it in order to live. But we focus more on the way it gives, on what it looks like, on what our lives look like from it. And I'll get more into that later. But I really want you to think about, what does success mean for us without money? I want to separate your feelings of worth, of your quality of life. I want to separate it from money. What even is money but the means or tool of trading for something you need or want? People were bartering for things. They were trading for things that they needed long before money really even came into practice the way it has today. So this is why I want to take you through each of these 3 myths so that you can start enjoying a joyful life regardless of how much money that you bring in. So go grab that load of laundry and let's dive in. Hey friend, welcome to the One Income Family podcast. Do you live primarily on your husband's income and find it hard to save or get out of debt? Are you constantly searching for ways to cut costs, live frugally, and do things on a budget? Do you have big dreams only to be stopped by overspending and loosely following your budget? Hey, I'm Molly, and I too have struggled with living and growing a family on one income. But through trial and error and a lot of help from God, my family and I have learned how to live abundantly on less. This podcast will bring you a Christ-centered, simple, and frugal lifestyle, along with how to budget so you can follow it and time management tips that will transform your budget and your home. So go restart that laundry, grab your Bible, and let's get budgeting. If you were here last week, you heard me tell you that there were some exciting news coming your way and to tune into the next few weeks to learn what that exciting news was. Well, here it is. Are you ready? In just a few short weeks, I will be hosting right here on the One Income Family podcast a 5-day series on setting up your Christmas budget. Yes, you heard me right. Together, you and I are going to get your budget in shape and get your plan in place so that you are ready to go Black Friday, Small Business Saturday, and Cyber Monday shopping so that you can get all the sales on the gifts and other items that you may need. In 5 days, we are going to get your budget set up, create a spending plan, find where your Christmas money is coming from, and so much more. This 5-day Christmas budgeting series is going to be rich and packed full of all the goodies that you need so that you don't go into debt or make it difficult to live because you spent all your money on Christmas. I've been there, I'm sure you have. There is so much going on during Christmas that costs money. There are the parties to go to, or maybe you want to put one on yourself. You could be traveling to see family or take a family vacation. Then there's the food that you have to take to the 5 different family Christmases, along with the baking as gifts and maybe just to enjoy some yourself. And then there's the gifts that we can tend to go a little overboard on because the marketing tells us that the more expensive the gift, the more we love our family. Plus, the more expensive the gift, the more fun we have with it, right? Maybe. Finally, there's the giving that tends to come last in our spending plan because it's not as important as all of the other things, right? Well, I am going to challenge all of this thinking during this 5-day Christmas budgeting series so that you are set up for success this Christmas. I want you to be able to go through Christmas without the financial stress that can be added from not having a Christmas budget or spending more than what you budgeted for Christmas, causing you to either swipe your credit card or pull from your everyday living expenses. This is not a place that I want you to be in during Christmas. It puts a damper on things and makes it difficult to really just enjoy the season. So starting November 13th all the way through November 17th, you're going to get to hang out with me on the One Income Family podcast every single day. Yay! We're going to follow up with engaging conversation from the podcast in the free Facebook group so that you can get the guidance that you need to implement what you've been learning and get set up for the Christmas season. So why am I doing this? Well, this, my friend, is the best part. This series will kick off the biggest sale of the year. The Christmas budgeting sale is going to go live at the exact same time as the series. Now you have the time to go and think about how great it would be not only to have a Christmas budget in place, but to have a fully systemized financial system in place that you can plug and play without a whole lot of attention. A system that will keep you on budget with less stress. This is the most exciting and biggest sale of the year, and it's coming to you November 13th through November 17th. I will be sharing more about it, but I just wanted to get you excited and hopeful as you think about the possibilities of what your life could look like if you implemented all that you will be learning from the Christmas budgeting series, starting again November 13th all the way through the 17th, and actually apply it not only to your Christmas budget, but to your actual budget when you book a financial strategy session with me during the Christmas budgeting sale. Again, the biggest sale of the year, and I'm super excited for it, if you couldn't tell. I will be chatting more about this in the next episode. It's going to be coming to your inbox. Again, if you are a One Income Insider, you will get to know first and foremost before anybody else. So for now, I just suggest go join the Facebook community and get on the insiders list so that you can be in the know as soon as possible. You can join the Facebook group by going to bit.ly/the One Income Family Community. And you can join the insiders list at bit.ly/the One Income Family Insider. So the only difference there is that the Facebook group says community at the end and the list says insider at the end. The links, they will also be in the show notes in case you didn't catch that. And yeah, I'm super, super excited for this. So tune in again next week so that you can hear more about this. Or if you want to hear about it before that, as in Friday when the newsletter comes out, go and join the insiders list so that you can catch it then. Okay, so let's dive into today's episode. Again, we are talking about 3 myths that keep you really from thriving on one income. And yes, these 3 myths are more like mental things, but sometimes those can be the most impactful and detrimental on our budgets or even anything that we do. If we have a mindset that thinks that we can only focus on one thing, then it's really hard to shift those thoughts. And that's why I really wanted to talk about these 3 myths today and really bring to you, what it looks like to live on one income and still be happy and still be joyful, because we can be so focused on the things that we think money entails, that we think the world says that we need to do with money. Like I said earlier, it equals power, it equals success, it equals all of these things. Whether you have a lot of money or not can decide whether you have a good quality of life or not. And I don't want that for you. I don't want money to define your life, individually, but even as a family. I don't want you to think, oh, I can't do that because I don't have the money. Now you might say, it's not in the budget this week. Let's try again next week when I can actually budget it in. You might have to plan ahead for things, because I want you to be able to put your money in the place that it needs to go every single time you sit down to do your budget. So that means that if you didn't put something extra in your budget, then no, it's not in the budget. But that is totally different than saying I don't have the money, because not having the money means I'm literally just living on my income. Like I don't have any extra money to put anywhere. And sometimes that is true. Sometimes you do need more income, but most of the time it's just a matter of not really understanding money and not understanding how to rearrange things. So, before I go off on a rant on on that specific topic, let's introduce myth number 1. And this is something that I've kind of already touched on, but a lot of people, myself included, have been living to where we think that money brings us happiness. And in a small percentage, that can be true, but happiness is really just short-lived. And like joy and happiness from money is the same way. It's short-lived. Now, there can be ways that I've explained in previous episodes on how to lengthen the excitement and the joy with what it is that you buy, and that's by not living like getting it right away, but rather deferring it and waiting for it. Man, I'm drawing a blank on the actual wording for it, the financial jargon, right? But you get what I'm saying. Like, when we try to buy things right away and we do it instinctively instead of waiting for it and saving up for it, the value on what it is that you have put on the item is more or less. So the longer that you have to wait for something to buy, the more it is that you are joyful about the fact that you bought the thing. Now, I'm not saying that I want you to think that money brings you happiness, because it doesn't. Money is not the sole thing in your life. If you think about it, the amount of things that you deal with on a daily basis that you actually spend money on is not that much, especially if you're like me and you're a stay-at-home mom. You don't actually go out and need to spend all that much money because you have everything at home. Now, when you go out and do a grocery load, right, it's usually an entire carload. But that's the thing, is the amount of money that we actually spend, unless you like to spend a lot online. I'm not that person. I actually struggle when I'm like, oh, I need to go buy something. Well, you can just quickly get it online. Yeah, I like to touch the things that I buy. Then I know if it's a good quality thing, right? But like, it's just so important to understand that the amount of things in your life that you actually spend things on, you actually buy things, is so small. The percentage is so small compared to everything else. Like the relationships you have, the talking, the communication that you have with your family, you can laugh about things without having to spend money. You can talk and enjoy somebody else's company without having to spend money. And it's so easy. We do that all the time without thinking. But because the world has really focused on the fact that money equals power, money equals happiness, money equals success, then we don't think about the other things that we have. We don't think about the things that we do, that we enjoy, that doesn't cost money. And maybe at the beginning, you did invest a little bit of money to maybe say you like to play board games or cards together with some friends on the weekends or something like that. Or even with your family, if your children are old enough that you enjoy, spending time that way together. And yeah, that was a very small percentage of money that you spent, and look how long it's lasted and how much enjoyment that you've gotten from one little expenditure. And that's what we need to realize, is no, things don't bring us money, or money doesn't bring us happiness. And the things that we buy, it doesn't bring us happiness, but rather the people that we spend those things with, the people that we spend time with and enjoy those things with, because we are a people of community. We are people of friendship. Even if you're introverted and you don't like to be out in the world that much, you still enjoy those few small people that you spend time with. You still enjoy your family. Now, that doesn't mean that you don't need a break every now and again so that you can refuel, right? But you still need that community and that relationship building. And that is so much more. It's worth so much more than money and the things that we do with our money, because that's what we need to focus on are the people in our lives, not the things. If you think about it, these days, let's bring up an example with children. So way back when, I don't even know, it's just a few short years back even, like maybe at my age, I'm not sure. But when children were younger, before all these fancy toys came into play, before the battery operated toys, before the Montessori stuff, before, all of those toys that just line the aisles because children want and want and want, and it's so much fun to play with those things, right? Well, as soon as they get it, they play with it for like 5 minutes and then they're done, ready to move on to the next thing, right? That's the instant gratification instead of delayed gratification. But if you think about it, way back when, children had like one toy. They didn't have all these toys. They didn't have all these books. They didn't have everything. And they still developed perfectly fine. They still learned and were able to go through life without needing all these toys or these special learning tools and stuff like that. And they still were happy. The children can go outside and play with sticks and rocks and be entertained just as easily that way as if you put a puzzle down in front of them, and they can learn and engage and develop just as well with those sticks and rocks as with some crazy Montessori tool. Now, I'm not against those. Don't take it the wrong way. I'm not against the toys. I have my own fair share for my children, right? Because it's easier to entertain them with because there's more options. But my point is, the children were just as happy with sticks and rocks and mud and playing outside, or even I give my children a lot of everyday items. Like we have old extra remotes that they can play with, old phones. Like we've got an old style corded telephone. We had to take the cord off because my daughter liked to do things with the cord that isn't exactly safe. But you get what I'm saying. Like, I don't want you to focus on the fact that money brings you happiness, because it doesn't. Look around you, find ways that you can be happy without spending money. Like, I challenge you, bring it to the Facebook group. What can you do this week that you can find joy in, that you can find happiness in together with your family that doesn't cost you a thing? I think it would be so much more, like it would mean so much more, and it'd be so much more like connecting and really engaging to really build relationship building. That's what I'm trying to spit out. It would help you with the relationship building, if you really are focused more on the relationship than the cost of what it is that you're trying to do. So bring that over to the Facebook group. I think that'd be so fun. Yeah. Okay, so let's move on to myth number 2. Myth number 2 is that money will solve my problems. And no, I'm sorry. But whenever I think about this myth, I think of those soap opera movies or something like it, where the really powerful people who have a lot of money are able to pay somebody off, or pay somebody, either pay them off with like a whole bunch of money to be silent about something, or pay somebody to do their dirty work to get rid of the problem. And that's not a healthy way of getting rid of things. It's not going to bring you friends. It's not going to build relationship. It's only going to cover up. It's like putting a Band-Aid on something instead of actually healing the problem. And so, no, yes, money can help in like the financial situations. But if you haven't learned how to manage your money, if you haven't learned how to really, stop spending and making yourself to where you're living paycheck to paycheck instead of living below your means, you're living at your means or even above your means. So above what it is that you bring in instead of below what it is that you bring in, then money is not going to solve your problems, because what ends up happening is you do what's called a lifestyle creep, and you just say, oh, I have more money, so now I can afford to put more on my credit card and make a higher credit card payment, or I can bring in more debt through maybe a new car, or I don't know. The options are endless. There's so much that you can put on credit these days. It's kind of scary. But that's what ends up happening, is we just end up putting more into our lap to where we have more bills and more debt, instead of actually just taking things out of our out of our debt and our liabilities and all of that stuff. And we end up just allowing that lifestyle creep to make it more difficult to live paycheck to paycheck. So if you wanted to quit your job, you couldn't, and you have to find either a higher paying job, and you can't go lower. But maybe you could, you just don't realize it because you've allowed the lifestyle creep to really say what it is that you can and can't do. So I don't want you to think that money can solve your problem, and that if you just have a little bit more money, then you'd feel more comfortable. Most of the time, just going on a spending freeze and realizing realizing what it is that you spend money on can really open your eyes to the amount of money that you have is probably enough, and you can actually do a lot with that money. But because of lifestyle creep and because of comparison and, living above our means these days instead of below, it makes it harder to solve those problems with money. And like I said, money isn't a way to solve your problems. It can solve or help or ease your financial problems if you know how to manage your money, but it's not going to solve your relationship problems. It's not going to solve, that fight that you had with somebody. It's not going to solve the fact that maybe you had an accident and you hurt somebody. There's so many things that money can't solve. And again, it kind of brings me back to where I said that money doesn't bring you happiness. The percentage of life, and I really wish maybe I should do a study on this or find a study on it, but the amount of interaction of money in our lives is actually very small. We don't do a whole lot with money. However, this dollar amount that we see come into our account holds so much power over us. And I don't want money to hold power over you, because if you are serving money, then you can't serve God. If you are focused on money more than, God and your other relationships, then it's really going to hinder your relationships, and it's going to cause fights. It's going to cause you not to want to listen to God. It's going to do so much hurt and bring so much, bad into your life that you don't want. And so I really, really, really want you to step away from the money for a while. Maybe go on a spending spree. I keep trying to say a spending spree for a shopping spree. But no, that's not what I want you to do. I want you to do the opposite. I want you to maybe instead of creating a meal plan this week or the next 2 weeks, I want you to try to make as much food from the food that you already have in your freezer. I'm sure you have plenty of meals in your freezer. Go through them. Go through the things that you've already got and don't spend any money. Don't go and buy that coffee that maybe you like. Instead, replace it with something that you can make at home. And I'm not saying to do this for a long time. I'm just saying maybe go on a spending freeze for like a week or two, just so that you can really have an idea of how much money you have and how much, the world has impacted what you buy. Because maybe at first, like me, I'm not a big coffee drinker, but I do enjoy going to the coffee shops and getting a coffee drink. And I'm not sure if it's because I like it or if it's because, the world makes it seem like this big thing that's so fun to do. And, you're cool if you go and drink something from like Starbucks or Dunkin' Donuts. You pick your choice of coffee joint that you like to go to. But I don't like coffee, and yet I'll still find myself going and buying one every now and again. And it's so crazy. But yeah, okay. I feel like I've went down a rabbit hole away from money solving my problems, right? I got back into money bringing me happiness as a myth. But okay. So I really hope that you've got my point on, my myth, my reasoning behind money bringing you happiness as a myth and money solving your problems as a myth. If you need more on that, definitely come to the Facebook group or shoot me an email. I'd love to answer your questions. But let's move on to myth number 3, which is, and it kind of all goes together as I round it out with this myth, but the myth is that I need to live in big houses. I need to drive nice cars. I need to wear expensive clothing. I need all the nice things so that everyone can see that I have a lot of money. And you may not think like in the forefront of your brain. You may not be thinking, oh my gosh, I need everyone to know that I have a lot of money, but rather it's kind of like a hidden back in the back of your brain where you're not thinking about it, but you are focused on comparison. You're focused on what other people have and whether you can afford it or not. The big houses are great. And yes, I would love to eventually have a big house. However, I am going to save up for it, or maybe I'll just remodel this one, continuously over the years until it's the way I like it, right? But that's the way that the world gets us. They say that in order to be rich, in order to have all this money, you have to have the big houses, you have to have the nice cars and wear expensive clothing. Think of people like the Kardashians and, big fancy rock stars that bring in all this money that they have to spend on, and people are trying to get them to sponsor their stuff and everything. But that's not what we want. What I'm meaning is that's not really realistic. They have an image that they have to keep, right? It's part of their brand. It's part of their job is to have this certain, look and everything. But when it comes to like their actual clothing, when it comes to things that they wear on a daily basis, you don't know what it is that they wear. You don't know if they wear just t-shirts and jeans that are simple and easy to wear, I don't mean easy to wear, but like they don't cost a whole lot of money, right? But yes, they do have these nice houses and they do drive nice cars sometimes, but not all of them. And we got to really think about the fact that they are maybe bringing in a whole lot of income and they have this money and we don't know their story. We don't know the things, but when we bring it down to ourselves and we're not comparing, our lives to their lives and wishing and hoping that we could have, like 7 mansions in different locations, which I think is a little extravagant, right? I mean, who wants to clean that much? Not me. But like, we don't want to compare our lives to somebody that does bring in more income than we do, or we don't know what their life is like. We don't know how much money they bring in. We don't know if they're throwing it all on a credit card and not able to actually afford it. And so that's why comparison can be so much of a struggle. So in reality, when you sit down and you think about it, do you really want a big house, or is that just the trend these days? Is that just, something that somebody else is doing that and you want to be like them? Are you allowing that comparison to guide your decisions, or is it something that you actually want? Nice cars. I mean, most people. Okay, so one of my coworkers when I worked at the bank asked me, would I rather have a nice house or a nice car? I would be totally fine driving a beat up vehicle, the ugliest thing in the world, as long as it's safe, right? As long as I had a nice house, because the house is what I live in. The house is what brings me comfort. The vehicle is just a tool that gets me back and forth to where it is that I need to go. So no, I don't need the nicest car. I am okay with getting something that doesn't look as great. However, I'm getting to the point where I would like something that has less miles on it, right? So it can last me longer and I don't have to put as many, fix it up as much as my older vehicles have been. But I'm not focused on the look of it. I'm focused on the longevity of it. I'm focused on the quality of it. That's what I'm focused on. Now, if it looks nice, that's a plus along the way. I'm the kind of person where if there's a ding in it, I'm like, hey, that's a discount. If there's a scratch on it, I'm like, hey, maybe I can get less for it. But that's the way my brain thinks when it comes to cars. Expensive clothing. No, I'm not going out and trying to buy, all these top high-end brands. Now I am looking for quality clothing that will last me longer. So yes, I need to buy something a little bit more than what Walmart's going to be, but they are still good quality clothes. And when you're on a low budget, Walmart clothing is still going to be good for you. I like to thrift store shop. I have found a Calvin Klein shirt at the thrift store. I've found buckle jeans at the thrift store. Things that I would never buy myself, but I have found quality pieces at the thrift store that are going to last me at not even a fraction of the cost, at like a very, very low percent of the cost, right? And that's the way I like to do things. Now, I'm not going and searching for high-end brands all the time. But like I said, I am looking for quality. So I want to make sure it's going to last me. I want to make sure that I don't have to replace it in a year, because then it's not worth it, right? So the myth that you need all these things, that you have to have the biggest house, the nicest cars, the expensive clothing, is not something that if you are living on one income, you should be focusing on. Instead, you need to be focused on the frugal qualities, which is the longevity of it. It's the price, whether it's going to be over what you can handle in your budget or whether you can actually afford it. And it's going to be, what makes you feel good, what makes you feel happy. Those are the things that, if it brings you value, those are the things that I want you to consider instead of, just the look of it, just the comparison mode. Because in all reality, when you are focused on building wealth, when you are focused on, living a lesser lifestyle so that you can, a lesser financial lifestyle, I need to emphasize that, then it makes so much of a difference on the relationships in your life. It makes so much of a difference on, the actual joy that you create instead of focusing on, the nicest and biggest and newest thing out there. I do not want you to go out there and buy a brand new vehicle, because when you drive that off the lot, it's going to drop, lose a good quarter of its value. I can't actually quote you the amount. I should have looked that up. But you also have to like pay a special tax when you buy a brand new vehicle. So even though they're saying, oh, you don't have to buy or you don't have to pay interest on it for so many months, but you're essentially paying all that interest back and the extra taxes you have to pay and the value that you lose on it right away. And so I don't suggest doing that. I don't suggest going out and buying a brand new house because more than likely it's not as quality. These days, brand new houses are built with stuff that's not as good because the process is, different than it used to be like in the 70s and even later on, right? Like in the 1800s, things were built sturdy. Things are not going to fall down on you that old. Yeah, you might have to update them, right? But that's something that I'm willing to do, to update and upgrade to make it look like, I don't want to say look nicer because back then the way it looks now is nice, but like I don't want you to get caught up in all the hubbub of it and thinking that that's what it means to be rich and that's what it means to have a whole lot of money. But in reality, people that are building wealth, people that are trying to focus on living a joyful life are not focused on the newest and nicest things. Okay. So I hope that you really understand what it is that I'm trying to get out of the 3 myths today. I really want you to focus more on your relationships. I want you to focus more on your family, on, finding joy in things other than what money can bring you. I want you to focus on not living above the amount of money that you bring in and do a spending freeze so that you can really see and analyze the money that it is that you bring in and maybe make tweaks and decisions on other ways that you can spend your money that's actually going to help you build wealth and actually going to, in the long run, actually bring you more joy. So yeah, I could continue on this, but I see we are running longer than what I usually talk. So I am going to stop here. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me through email, or you can join the free Facebook group. I will answer whatever questions that you have. And if you want it to be more personal, again, you can email me or you can shoot me a Facebook message. Either one works. But yeah, I'm super excited that I was able to talk to you about this today, and I pray that it has really opened your eyes to some of the myths that people talk about. And I know that these are talked about a lot, but I wanted to talk about them in the point of view of a one-income person and not just anybody in general. I pray that this episode has grown you and will help guide you to creating better money habits and just opened your eyes to the ways of what the world wants us to do compared to what it is that we should be doing. And, that comparison can be a game killer, right? And we don't want that. Okay. So before I hop off, I do want to remind you again about the Christmas budgeting series that's going to be coming up November 13th through the 17th. And the sale is going to be coming up the same time, which the series is the 13th through the 17th, but the sale actually goes all the way to Sunday. So it starts Monday and it goes all the way through Sunday. So that's super exciting too, right? But I will have more on that come next week. And I hope that you come join the Facebook group so that we can connect more, and you join the insiders list so that you can find out what's going on first before, you have to wait for the next episode next week. So I pray that you guys have a great week, and I will see you next week. Hey friend, I hope you enjoyed today's episode, and I pray that it inspired you into action. If so, would you take 30 seconds and share it with that friend who also lives on one income and wants to learn how to live abundantly on less? Also, please leave a quick review for the show. It lights me up to know this podcast is helping you, and it helps get the show out there to other mamas in need. All right, well, it's time time to go play with the babies. So I will meet you back here on Tuesday for another episode. Peace and chicken grease, Mama.